So thanks for tuning in again today. Today I got a really cool psychologist with me today, Christa Jørgensen. She's a trained psychologist from Copenhagen University. She's been working at hospitals. She was a subject expert at a consultancy within psychology and well-being, stress and well-being.
Yeah,
we'll talk more about that. And is today consulting both companies and private individuals. So Christa, thank you so much for coming in today.
and thank you so much for having me.
So Christa, psychology, how did you get into that? And then so much into stress?
Well, like the personal story of me is that my father, he owns his own business, and my mother, she's a social worker. And it was kind of like the mix of these two, because I heard my father talking, of course, about stress and people not being great in his workplace and all the considerations he had about being a boss. And then I heard about my mother, of course, and all the social work she did for people that couldn't help themselves. So it was kind of like a mix of those two. And then I've just always enjoyed like seeing people develop and getting ahead and getting better and learning and just developing. That gives me so much joy. So that's what drives me.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And so today we're going to talk a bit about stress and work stress.
Yeah.
So many people are stressed these days.
Yeah. It's terrible. It's like an epidemic.
Yes.
And actually the curve hasn't been broken yet. Like it's just getting worse and worse. And and of course it's because there's not like a singular explanation to why this is happening. There's like a lot of different reasons why, and I think that's why it's so difficult to like get ahead.
It seems like it's hitting everyone. So it's not like there's just a specific type that gets stressed. People who say that's more emotional. There's also people that are less emotional, people that are emotional, and so on. People that are doing sports at the top level and so on. So it's like pretty much everyone getting hit by stress. But what are some of the main reasons why people are getting so stressed at work? And what does it mean to be stressed? I think that's probably a good place to start.
Yeah. So what the first question, like why, like you said something about like a lot of different people getting stressed, and that's like I think that's an important place to start as well, because we can't find any personality traits that leads to stress, and of course then you have to look beyond that, and you have to look at like other factors.
So if we look first, like what is stress, and then why are so many people getting stressed?
Oh yeah. So stress is like a cluster of a lot of different symptoms. So you can look at it like that, like in a sickness perspective. And well, stress is shown by like you're having difficulty sleeping, you're having difficulty functioning, you're having difficulty concentrating, you forget stuff, you forget where you parked your car.
Well, that sounds very normal.
Yeah, and it is. But at some point, of course, if it's like taking over your life, and it's also like some people are like absent-minded, and that's like totally normal. But of course, if it's like intervening in your everyday lives, like every day, of course, with the concentration, it's terrible. It's like you can sit down and then you can't like concentrate for more like 2 or 3 minutes at a time, and so it's when it's more like intervening, of course, that it gets serious. And like and stress, people get stressed when the resources they have and the resources that they're given doesn't exceed like the demands they're also meeting in their everyday lives. And
so the classic of a boss expecting really big results, but the resources that the employee has are simply not enough to meet those expectations. So they're in a situation where they feel like they're not enough, and the boss is like, you should have delivered X, Y, Z.
Yeah. That could be like one way of seeing it. It could also be like a boss that doesn't give you like doesn't help you prioritize, or doesn't know what you're doing day to day, and doesn't check in, etc. and you see like maybe a young person that just entered the
workflows.
And are having difficulties with prioritizing, for example. So that could be also another like, so that's, and demands can be a lot of different things, and resources can be a lot of different things. And resources can also be like, if you work alone or you don't have anything to talk about, anybody to talk with about what you're going through, if you don't have anybody that's
caring for you.
And that could be like a demand as well, because you're not getting what you need to carry on with your day. So
So what can we do about it? So everyone has heard about people being stressed and so on.
Yeah.
Sometimes also being overused the word, but a lot of people are getting sick and not able to actually like function a normal job, function a normal day. So when people get in those situations, what can we do first not to get in that situation? And then afterwards we can talk about what do you do when you get in that situation.
Yeah. Well, I always say, because I also advise like individual with people that are stressed or about to be stressed or displaying like stress symptoms. And I always tell them like the first thing you have to do is talk to somebody about it. Sometimes when people come and talk to me, I'm one of the first people that they tell that they're stressed and they're having symptoms. And that's actually like pretty normal. That people, it's kind of taboo in the society to tell anybody that you can't cope with the things that people are demanding of you. And a lot of men have trouble talking about being what they see as like vulnerable or etc. So that's like the first thing. You really, really, really need to talk to somebody about this, and preferentially like talk to your boss about it and say, I've got problems and I need you to help me prioritize my time or my tasks. And so that's like the number one.
So that's one, you're starting to feel a little bit of pressure. Or a bit of stress, or what we would call it like have a harder time focusing, or you feel a bit overwhelmed. But what do you do before getting there? So first, I'm a pretty happy camper. And I work a lot, and I love to work. And some people would think that I work way too much. And I've often been told, be careful, Mads. Like, you're probably working too much. So I'm very aware that I don't want to end up in a situation where it's suddenly tilting, where I go from thinking it's the greatest thing in the world, and I actually want to sit with this really late in the evening, to becoming in that stress situation. But I also learned that there's something about how you view stress can make you more stressed. So I think it's like, what would you advise someone like me or someone else that feel like they're doing really well and really happy, but they are working a lot, so they're in that, what do you say, category of risk category of potentially becoming more stressed?
So I would say like, actually you could feel totally fine and feel like you're on top of the game and just doing your job and working a lot of hours, and then suddenly, without you knowing it almost, you could like just tilt. And it's not to be like doomsday or anything like that, but it can happen quickly, and it can happen. A lot of people I talked to, some of them didn't realize it before it was too late. So
before they tilted.
Before it happened. I had this guy, he one morning he woke up and he took on his clothes, and then he just started getting rashes all over his body, and then he could feel he was getting sad, and he cried, and that was from like one moment to the next. He was just.
So how do we avoid that? So don't wake up Tuesday morning, feeling great Monday, and then Tuesday is just like, fuck. Like what can we do?
Well, we can do a lot of things to check in on ourselves. I think about it like that. You have a body and you have a mind, and of course they're linked. You can't treat one without treating the other, but it's a good way of like approaching it, because so what do you need to do to have your body functioning? So that could be like exercising and making sure to spend a lot of time in the nature, getting out, taking breaks, etc. So that's like the body part of things.
Sleep.
yeah, of course, getting your sleep. And then there's the mind thing. And I always say, like, you need to know yourself. And what does that mean? Well, it means that you need to know symptoms. When you're getting stressed or pressed, you need to know how you react. And a lot of people, they don't, or they just decide to neglect or ignore those symptoms. So you really need to know that when you're getting pressed or stressed or under pressure, you need to get like a rehabilitation time afterwards.
So how do we, if you don't know yourself, how do you get to know yourself? Someone listening being like, that's very fine. I don't know what you're talking about.
The thing is that you need to get stillness. You need to seek stillness, because in stillness, that is the only time you can really listen to yourself. Because every day we look at our phones, we look at the computer, the television, etc., and we can max our life up so we don't never listen to ourselves. And we might do it as well, like to not listen, because we don't want to hear what's going on inside. So you need to seek stillness, and you can do it, and you can do it with mindfulness exercises, for example, where you just concentrate on your breathing, or you concentrate on looking at something for an extended time period, and then you just listen within and figure out, so what's going on in the inside of me. And some people are reluctant to do this because it's like, you don't want to be still. You want to keep going, because it gets a drug as well to like keep going, and the stress likes when you're really preoccupied and doing a lot of stuff. So you don't want to do it, your body don't want to do it, but when you do it, then you get a chance to listen to what's actually going on inside, and is my heart pounding, and am I sweating, and stuff like that.
So very concrete would be go on YouTube or go on Insight Timer, or one of those apps. Try and do like a meditation, mindfulness meditation can you do it for 20 minutes to half an hour? If you get all crazy in your head just after 5-10 minutes, then that's probably a sign that you should practice a bit more stillness. Or go out in nature, go for a walk without your phone, or without music in your ears, or at least music that doesn't have a lot of lyrics. So in that way, just be more present with your own thoughts.
And also I'd say, if I've worked with a lot of people that really have difficulties sitting still and just meditating or whatever, and also like experiencing really tough symptoms when suddenly they go still. And the thing is, if you're really, really, really stressed, I wouldn't recommend you like doing mindfulness because it's too much. It's almost like you haven't confronted this ghost in like 20 years, and suddenly you're looking it in the eyes. It could be too much. So I guide them to just like talk about it, or maybe exercise, and then slowly trying to get some of the mindfulness in their lives. Maybe start with just 5 minutes or something like that. And also the 5 minutes, you can cut it up, and you can do just like 1 minute, and then 3 minutes later in the day, and then 2 minutes, and that's...
And if people are wondering what mindfulness is, would you say a word on that?
Well, mindfulness is really simple. It's actually just about focusing on one thing, and then when your mind starts popping with lots of thoughts, and it'll do that. When you register that your mind is full of thoughts, you just go back to what you were concentrating on, and then your head will fill up again, and then you go back, and it's kind of like an exercise for your brain to get it more elastic, so you can control where your brain is going, and it's not controlling you. So that's mindfulness. And I meet a lot of people that say like, oh, I don't know how to meditate, and that's too difficult for me, and lots of thoughts are popping up in my mind and I can't concentrate. And that's the thing about it. It's not about being thoughtless. It's about
practicing.
Yeah, practicing that move from registering the thoughts, going back to your concentration point, that whole route there. Yeah.
I found personally that I've been meditating now, I think, for more than half a year, almost every single day.
That's good.
So sometimes it's like a day is skipped, but I've kind of trying to follow the James Clear of never break the chain twice.
Yeah.
Simple rule of saying like try to make it a habit, but sometimes stuff will happen.
Yeah.
And if you make it too strict of a habit, then you kind of give up when you then have it like something happens and it breaks.
Yeah.
So just allowing that you don't break it twice. Okay. And then I have a calendar where I put a circle for every day that I've meditated to kind of give me that reward as well, that I can see it and track myself. And then I have a check mark for if I've done something physically active that day as well.
Yeah, that's great.
It helps a lot for me at least. But I found it was really hard to get started. I think I tried for almost 2 years to start meditating. Yeah. For me, it worked when I found Insight Timer. Yeah. It was just speaking better to me. There was more solutions for me to choose between. That's a good one. Yeah. And then I found that body scans works really well for me. Yeah. Or mantras. I haven't done as many of them. Oh yeah. Or what is it called? Chantra, mantras, chanting. Yeah. That feels really good for me at least. I have an easier time doing that than doing the thing of like just sitting with a blank head. Yeah. So it might also be finding what
works for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you can move towards potentially sitting and not thinking too much.
Yeah. And actually it should be like just like you brush your teeth every night, you need to brush your mind for like 10 minutes a day or something like that. But of course, it's so important to find like the method that works for you.
Yeah. I think making it a habit is one of the things. So for me, I do it in the morning. So when I wake up, I go to the toilet, drink some water, and then I go meditate. Yeah. That's the first thing. And that's really helped to make it into a habit. Yeah. Where if I have to like schedule it in between different times, it's harder.
Yeah. I heard about this guy. He had a yoga mat just next to his bed. Yeah. And in the morning, he just rolled off the bed and down to the yoga mat, and he did like the sun salutations for a couple of times, and that worked for him. Yeah. And also like, but now we're talking about habits and how to incorporate it. But like, so you need to do something that closely mimics the things you do normally anyway. Yeah. So it can't be too much of a stretch for you.
No. James Clear also talks about what he called habit stacking. Yeah. So if you have one habit that you're already doing, then tie it together with that habit. Yeah. So now that I've meditated every morning for a half a year, I started putting in here in the winter that I do red light therapy at the same time. Okay. So you can see can't see it on the camera, but the big light over there. So I sit up against that and then meditate at the same time. And it just makes it easier because it's not that effortful.
And it's like a double gain.
Yeah. Yeah. It's fantastic. Then I just need one more device and I'm... Perfect. But, so going back to stress, and so it's not getting in that situation is stopping up once in a while and just being like we're human beings. No, human beings, not human doings. Yeah. So stopping and noticing yourself. That's a really good way. Yeah. What are other things we can do preventive so we don't end up in a stress situation?
I would say, well, there's a lot of things you can do yourself, obviously, but also the workplace you're at, that's an important factor. Like, for example, we know that like social support is crucial for not developing stress. I talked to these nurses when I worked at the hospital, and they were at the some sort of ER. They couldn't control anything. Like people were pouring in.
The emergency center.
Yeah, pouring in at different times, and they couldn't control at all the intake. But the thing they did is that after they'd had like a really busy hour or two, and it stilled, then they went into what they called like a broom closet, and they talked to each other about it. So, for example, okay, I had this patient, this and this happened, I got shouted at, etc. So I would really, really say that the workplace is so important in supporting like a culture where you can go and talk to each other if you experience something. So as an individual, I would say like get to know the people that you work with, because the more, the better you know them, the easier it is to talk about the hard things as well if it gets hard. So a good work culture, well, it can start with the individual as well, in just sharing and showing trust. And yeah, so I would also, because we can do a lot as individuals, but there's a lot in the culture as well that has to be in sync for us not to get stressed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Pfeiffer, actually, the other episode that I just had, he came out with an article, one of the famous management gurus from Stanford, I think it was, or Berkeley. I'm sure that's possible to find online, but something about how bosses are killing people. Yeah. Like how we as the bosses, management have a big responsibility for creating an environment that's either stressful or not. Yeah. And I think the classic is also like this really enthusiastic boss that just pour tasks over the employees. Yeah. And it's just like, oh, that can't take that long. Or can you do that? And so on. Yeah. So for me, I try to be aware that I'm far from perfect. Yeah. But I really ask my team to put it into a calendar how much you estimate the different tasks. Yeah. Because otherwise, there's a really big risk that I'm going to over-pour task on you. Yeah. So you're going to sit here like till the night. Yeah. So you need to help me so I don't overload you. Yeah. So I think that can be something as well for as an employee. Try to estimate it. So if you don't have a boss that actually asks you to do it, but estimate it yourself and then show it when the boss comes and be like, can you do this and this? And be like, I have these tasks. Yeah. Do you want me to reprioritize or how do you think I can get this done? Yeah. Yeah. Good idea to like working on leading up. But I think it also links into knowing yourself, because if you have a boss who's really ambitious and wants a lot, and you're maybe don't have like the substance to say I don't have the time, or I don't do. Or I talked to a girl. She had a boss who gave her a lot of jobs, and she told me that every time it happened, she kind of went blank. Yeah. Like she was just like, okay, I'll do it, sure, just let me get out, like a panic reaction. And we talked a lot about like, so what happens when you get these tasks and these assignments, and she told me about getting blank and all these things. And then we talked about, so is it possible for you to get out of the situation without saying like, yes, of course I'll do it, or can you do anything else? Can you say, will you give me 5 minutes, or is it possible I can just think about this and getting back to you? Or so there's a lot of like delaying maneuvers in this, because as people we are normally very like service minded, and also towards our bosses. So like know yourself, like know if you're prone to always like say, yes, of course I'll do it, then find ways of delaying that response. Yeah. Makes sense. Yeah. So we can stop up, notice how we're feeling. We can exercise. We can make sure to get proper sleep. Eat properly. Get a social support system at work. So we actually have people that care about us and we feel like we're part of something. We can kind of schedule our time with our bosses and show them what's the main priority. And ask the boss as well for like, what is the main priority right now? We can do delaying maneuvers in regards to when the boss comes. Instead of just saying yes, say, is it possible for me just to double check that I have the time? Anything else that's like top of mind, good things to do? Or are we more moving into what happens after you get stressed? That was also a long list of things. Yeah, it was. I'm just thinking if there's anything else. No, I think that's pretty much what I can just think of right now. Maybe yeah. So hopefully I won't wake up on Tuesday after following this advice. What then happens if you get in that situation where you're stressed? That's often where you meet most people. What do you advise people to get back on top again and have a normal day?
Sorry, I didn't
So
find it.
you often meet people once they actually are stressed or tilted. So what can we do once that happens? Like how do we get back again as fast as possible?
Yeah, I'd say like depending on, of course, how stressed you are, but sometimes it's good to just give the nervous system like just a couple of days of rest, but not normally, maybe not more, maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks. But I'd say that there's been a lot of discussion in regards to like, so how long are you supposed to stop working when you're stressed? And the thing is that it's normally not good for us to get deprived of our work, because it's like a part of our identity now. We can discuss if that's a good or a bad thing, but that's how it is.
Yeah.
So when you're running around at home and your body is reacting, and also you need to like think about, so am I ever gonna get back to normal, and what are the other people doing, and having a bad conscience because everybody else is working and you're not. A lot of things happen when you just get I don't know what it's called, like when you're not in part of the society. So I'd say like good idea to take a short break, but then you need to get back to the workplace or get back to like the normal routines. But of course, you need to not work as much.
Yeah. So it could be getting back to working 1 day a week or 2 days a week or something like that.
Yeah.
So you're still part of something and you don't feel totally isolated.
Yeah.
You have some routines.
Yeah.
But you're not being overloaded.
Yeah. And then you need to, of course, like do an estimate. So what was why did I end up getting so stressed? What happened? And which tasks are the ones that are really getting to me? Or which like cooperations are problematic, or and we normally think that it's because of the workload that people are getting stressed, but that's actually not the fact. It's not because there's a lot of work. There's like underlying issues normally. For example, a boss that can tell you what to prioritize, or all kinds of like social problems, etc. Yeah. So you need to like get to the root of, so why did this happen, and what can I do now to eliminate those tasks for a while or maybe forever? Yeah.
So that's part of also getting to know, like, that's something I'm very aware of. What tasks are giving me energy and what's draining me from energy.
Yeah.
And trying to be very upfront with people that I work with and try to communicate it. I know that I can't always stay away from what I don't like to do. I was sitting with accounting today. That's not what gives me the most energy, but it's important.
Yeah.
So figuring that out and talking to your co-workers as well about it, and try to avoid it, or try to see if you can find a way of working or get into a job where you don't have as many of those situations. Yeah.
And also like very complex tasks you should avoid in like the first couple of weeks, months, because your brain is not functioning at its best. And you wouldn't be able to concentrate as you could before.
Yes.
So that's also like,
What about the whole accepting that now something happened?
Yeah. And that's one of my like main jobs as a psychologist, is to help people accept that this has happened.
Yeah.
Because there's like a lot of different things going on. It could be like just denying it.
Yeah.
Like it was just one bad day and I'll be back in next week, or there's this guy showing up and saying, so I'm thinking like I'll be good again in like 14 days or so, and I have like the terrible task of telling them that might not be the case. And
so how long does it take?
And that
depends
really
on how bad it goes, of course.
It depends on how bad it goes, and it depends on acceptance.
Yeah.
Because as long as you're fighting yourself and your body, you're using up all your powers in that fight, and you can't use your powers in getting better. So that's what I try and tell people.
Yeah.
So as long as you keep having this imaginary fight with your stress, you won't get better.
No.
It's first when you accept the things as they are, you can get better, because then you can apply your powers to getting better.
Yeah.
But that can be a really difficult and long talk, because normally we think that we can, as people, we are action oriented.
Yeah.
And we're thinking like, if I just need to work through this or power through this, and you use all sorts of strategies that it might have worked for you in the past. They're not working anymore, but you keep on applying them.
Yeah.
So that's a problem, but that's part of my job to help. And mindfulness as well is good.
Yeah.
In the acceptance department, because it helps you like just being instead of doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's say if I had come in and talked to you like, hey, Christa.
Yeah.
Can't focus, can't sleep any longer either, have a hard time sleeping, or I'm sleeping all the time.
Yeah.
Like what would you start talking to me about, and what would you advise me to actually do to get back to work or get back to a normal day?
Yeah. I always start with the sleep.
Yeah.
The sleep is the most important thing, because if you can't sleep, you can't get better, and you can't focus on getting better.
Is that happening often, that people can't get proper sleep once they get stressed?
That's like the normal thing.
Okay. People are thinking all night and worrying and so on.
Or they fell asleep like totally, I don't know, like
out of the blue. On
they
the
just
couch and
and then they wake up like really, really early in the morning and then can't sleep anymore. So there's a lot of that. There's some different like ways of the sleep.
Yeah.
But so that's the normal thing, that people are not getting enough sleep, or the sleep is like really interrupted.
Yeah.
So and it's very like diagnostic. So I'm like, what do you do like the last couple of hours before you sleep? Do you check your phone? Do you work? And then when you go to bed, what are you thinking about? What are your thoughts? And then I ask people to write those thoughts down. At best, they can do it in another room. So get up, go into another room, write your thoughts down, and then go back. That's one version. Or So I focus a lot on the sleep in like the first couple of
sessions.
Weeks. Yeah, and sessions. Yeah. Yeah.
And what after sleep? So now I got my sleep rocking, I got my Fitbit, I got my Oura ring telling me I'm sleeping really well.
Yeah. Yeah. So then I'll focus again on what's going on in your head.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts centering on? And the thing is, the mind is a smart machine, because it'll always go to the things that are most hurtful or most difficult. So if you start looking at your thoughts, it'll give you a good view of what is troubling you right now. Also, when you, for example, if you use mindfulness, your thoughts will go to the things that are most important to you normally. Yeah. So I'd start talking to them about that, and for them to understand. So what's going on inside of me, and why am I occupied with these things? Are they like a normal? Is this a version of reality, or is it me spinning out of control about something that's not actually a problem, or what's going on? So that would be like the next step.
Yeah.
And of course, in all of this, they need to like lay off the phone, don't watch any movies where you don't know how it ends. Like your nervous system and everything needs to be you need to get it down.
Yeah.
And see some animal programs and watch some films you've already seen like 10 times and all of that stuff, because you don't want to get a rise out of your nervous system at that point. Yeah.
So I think the phone is super interesting. So both we're working at Kring right now on trying to build something for the phone. So like a mental health system that takes some of these different tools from cognitive behavioral therapy and help with the right questions and like these mental distortions. It's not a replacement for a psychologist, because I think psychology is super important and get on top of people.
Yeah.
But one of the things we're looking at with that mental health assistant is also how are people using their phones.
Yeah.
Because that's really stressing out people.
Yeah.
If you constantly get these notifications showing up on your phone, your system is like constantly in stress.
Yeah.
Like, so really helping people spend potentially less time on their phone.
Yeah.
I put my phone on flight mode when I go to bed, and I was better a month ago at doing it every single day at 9 or 10 o'clock. I would say the last month, I haven't been as good. I've basically just turned it off when I went to bed.
Yeah.
But some of those things, like how would you recommend people use their phones better?
Well, it's pretty tricky, because if you like, the more stressed you are, the more difficult it is to leave your phone, because the phone feeds your stress.
Yeah.
I think of stress like an animal, and it feeds on like adrenaline and getting rises out of things, and so it's like you get addicted to your phone because you're stressed.
Yeah.
But I would just say like, actually, I don't know if it was you who told me about maybe you trying out when you got in the front door, leaving your phone. Just, I don't know if it doesn't matter. No. Okay, because I think that was really good. This guy, he told me he would leave his phone when he entered his front door. He would leave his phone and just go about his normal business, and then like being conscious about grabbing the phone.
Yes.
So now I need to check this. I'll go and get my phone.
Yeah.
And that's like one way of being conscious. And I'm sure everybody tried like having their phone charging in another room, and like every 5 minutes you grab for the phone because you realize like I need to check the weather, I need something. And we're getting like so dependent on the phone.
I'm very curious about that, because I found myself wanting to reach out for my phone and thinking, why do I need that right now? This is not important.
Yeah.
And I like Apple's new features where you can actually put a limit on how much you're using different apps. So I have a limit on how much I can be on Instagram, my email on the phone. And the reason why I put it with my email is because it's very easy for me to constantly check work emails.
Yeah.
But then I check them once and I don't really answer them.
Yeah.
Then I might as well wait till I get to a computer and just get it done there, instead of constantly having something pop up in my mind.
Yeah.
So I don't give it that rest.
Yeah.
But it is interesting to see how much the brain craves getting that dopamine rush from looking at your phone, even though you're not looking for anything important.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it makes a lot of sense actually to put your phone somewhere else.
Yeah.
So in that way you'll
have to be conscious about it, like grabbing it. Yeah. Yeah. So and I would say just in all of this that you need the key here in stress is to regain your consciousness, actually, like getting back to
being in control over your phone and your thoughts.
It's like the difference between acting and reacting, and you need to get back to acting and taking control of your own actions, and not constantly running and trying to just getting probed constantly. So there's a lot of in this about being conscious and not unconscious, and the phone makes you unconscious. It grows like a haziness in your head, like you said. Like I check my mail as well a lot of times, and and 50% of the times I'm not even conscious that I'm doing it.
No.
And
that's so scary when you suddenly like you find yourself and you look at your phone like, how did that happen?
Yeah.
I am a pretty rational person.
Yeah.
I do my meditation. I exercise. I'm mindful.
Yeah.
And now I got this freaking phone in my hand again.
Yeah. And I can't even remember why I picked it up in the first place. Or I started checking my mail, and then I went to Facebook, and then I went to Insta, and then I went to the weather, and then like it just
I like the idea of fasting. So just like you're doing intermittent fasting with food, several of my guests have talked about that. So fasting for something like 16 hours.
Yeah.
Basically, it's like skipping breakfast, but now we got a fancy name for it. So now you're no longer just skipping breakfast, you're doing intermittent fasting. But potentially doing the same with your phone. Yeah. Once in a while, like take certain hours that you don't look at it, or potentially take in the weekend.
Yeah.
And I don't understand why it is so hard to do. So I've thought about this several times.
Yeah.
But I have not put my phone away for a full day the last 6 months, despite thinking about it. Like, that's not true. When I was in Costa Rica, I did it one day where I didn't use my phone for a full day.
So why do you think it's so hard?
I guess the brain is just so addictive to getting that dopamine and so on. And it's like, oh, I want to be in contact with other people.
Yeah.
But I guess this could be a challenge after this podcast. Yeah. So within the next month, at least have 1 day of 24 hours phone fasting. Yeah. That should be possible. Should we both try it, Christa? No.
I don't know. Maybe a Sunday.
Yeah.
A Sunday, that would be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So full Sunday.
Yeah.
I will try and see if I can get that done the next. And I can even feel in my stomach that feels like with these Corona times, oh, what if something happens and so on. And you're even more worried. But that fear, I don't think it's rational, that fear. I think it's something that we have to rationalize for ourselves. With the Corona, now we have a good excuse not to leave our phone. Because what if something happens?
Yeah, we need to check it like constantly.
Then we have to get toilet paper.
Yeah. Yeah. No, but I would like to try it as well, because it's like, we need to like get off it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a challenge.
Yeah.
Also for listeners, let me know if any of you try it and how it goes. And please poke me if I haven't by end of April, if I haven't done a 24-hour phone fast. Please write me if I haven't posted about it. I need to be able to try it as well. Christa, if people want to learn more about you or get in contact with you, potentially have a session with you as a psychologist, or I know you also do coaching. I forgot to mention that. That's actually one of the reasons why I really like talking to you, because you have that mix of both the psychology background, but whenever I talk to you in like different sessions, whether like all of the business sessions, where it's never that stereotype of a psychologist that sometimes is like speaking too slow and you feel like they're overanalyzing you and you can't just have a proper conversation with them. And I guess that's part of your coaching as well, that you're really good at meeting people in an action-oriented way.
Oh, thank you.
So how can people get in contact with you or find out more about you?
They can visit me at my homepage, and that's christajørgensen.dk.
I'll put that in the show notes.
Yeah. And that's pretty much it. And then just get in contact with me in there, or you can write me on my LinkedIn page. And if you have any questions or anything like that, you can, of course, just write me and I'll get back to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect. Before we round off, any last recommendation? 1 to 3 things?
Actually, I just want to, now you said like round off, and I'll try and do it short, but
we can take a few more things.
Okay. Yeah. Because when I was pretty young, like I think I was 21 years, I had my first job. I was I had a job where I experienced some really traumatic things with some people in a resort. That's not the important thing here. The important thing is that I had a pretty bad reaction afterwards, and I was like a bit traumatized. And at that time, I borrowed this book from Jon Kabat-Zinn, it's called Full Catastrophe Living. And I love this book because it's really action-oriented. And that was when I really realized what meditation and yoga and body scan can do, because I recovered pretty quickly. My mind was scattered and all over the place, but I really got better. And the thing Jon Kabat-Zinn can do, he's like really loving and very compassionate in the way he writes about stuff. So I would really recommend that you look into him. There's also a lot of...
Put that in the show notes as well so people can find them.
Yeah. And he also has some guided meditations that you can find on YouTube as well. And I would really recommend them. I love the way he talks, but it's a personal thing if you like it or not. But yeah, he's my go-to guy, Jon Kabat-Zinn. So yeah.
That's a good note. So when a psychologist needs some help, she goes there.
Yeah.
It's always a good, cool. Any other final recommendations? Anything else?
I think that's it. Yeah.
Get a copy of his book. Perfect. Thank you so much, Christa.
Thank you.